Hello and welcome to part 3 of lesson number 1 in Unit 2A, Quadratic Functions, Forms and Transformations in our grade 11 University College math class. This is analyzing quadratic functions. So just to recap real quick, we've gone over the difference between linear equations and quadratic equations, as you can see via first and second differences when calculating from a table of values. We've looked at how we can differentiate them from the equations by looking at the degree. We went over some of the terminology that we're going to be using when working with quadratics, including direction of opening, vertex, and axis of symmetry. We worked an example here where we graphed a table of values, did some sort of work with figuring out direction of opening, vertex, whether it's a maximum or minimum, and then articulating the range. Finally, we moved to domain and range of just linear functions in general, and to look at their domain and range, and quadratic functions in general, as well as their domain and range. So we're going to just have a look at these last 3 examples right here. So here we have, by inspection, this is going to be a straight line, and we know this because this is a degree 1 function, which is a straight line. So knowing that, just knowing that alone tells us that the domain, as we know, is going to be wide open, which is the set of all x, such that x is an element of real numbers. Now again, just to recap, real numbers here would be applicable because we can put any value for x into this equation and it will spit out a y value. So that would include not just whole numbers or natural numbers or integers, it would also include 1.6 or 2.93. We can put any value that we want in there, which means we're dealing with real numbers, not just integers or one of the other number sets. And we would see that same thing with the range. There's going to be no limits on that. So that's the set of all y, such that y is an element, again, of real numbers. No limits on what we can be outputting either. Let's have a look at example B. Example B, we can tell by inspection that this is going to be a parabola, and I know this because the highest exponent on any of our variables is 2. So this is going to be a quadratic function. What do we know about the domain of a quadratic function? Wide open. Set of all x such that x is an element of real numbers. No limits. The range, however, we know has a limit. So let's see if we can get a little sketch of this guy kind of happening here. For those of you who aren't 100% yet on vertex form, just follow along knowing that we're going to spend a lot more time on vertex form in the next lesson. But for those who do know, here's our coordinate plane. Based on this form, our vertex is going to be this h value, which is 4. Looks like a negative 4, but is actually a positive 4. And there's our plus 1. So we have 4, 1, which will be like over here somewhere. Let's change up our colors. 4, 1, say right there. And we know, based on the a value out front, that our parabola with a negative a value will be opening down. So it'll look something like this. So remember that vertex is at 4, 1. Which means that the highest point that we reach is going to be 1, and then everything less than that. If I were to mush that up against the y-axis, it would be here at 1, and then everything less than that. So let's articulate that in our range. We started as usual, set of all y, such that y is an element of real numbers, where, and we know our high point is 1, so y is going to be something to 1, but it's all values less than and equal to 1. And close the bracket and shut her down. So I just realized here that example C leans on the part that we ignored from the previous lesson, which is if the equation is in standard form. So we're just going to actually skip example C. It won't be necessary for your homework. So this is the end of lesson number 1. If you have any questions, reach out via email, come to me in person, or join our class video chat that's open every day, and I can answer any questions you might have in that format too. So good luck with the homework, and we'll see you in lesson number 2.